Good morning and welcome to Faith Fridays with Coach Ellis. This is the day I spend just a few minutes talking about principles or thoughts from the book of life that help us along our faith walk. Now, for the next several weeks, I want to cover what I've come to know as the 7 ups, the universal principles of success. These are biblical principles that help us in our daily walk. Now, to give you a little history, I wish I could tell you that I discovered these things or uncover these things, but really, back in 1983, when I was a wee lad in high school there in Montgomery, Alabama, I was a member of an organization called the Fellowship of Christian Musicians. And so we were members of the band or members of the choir. And, we had this group called Fellowship of Christian Musicians. And Lady D, usually every other week, somebody came in and did a devotion with us or kind of talked with us. And I distinctly remember Keith Loomis and Randy Evers there in Montgomery, Alabama, coming to Jefferson Davis High School and having this devotion with us. Now, this has been 35 years, but these principles have stuck with me for 35 years. Their little 5-10 minute devotional, for me, has turned into a series of sermons. It's turned into, half-day seminars, weekend workshops. I've done countless hours on this. I've done speeches on this. I've done sermons on this. Because these 7 principles, I think, are universal. And they are principles that everyone can use. And not just for success in business or success in relationships or anything like that, Christine. These are principles of success in our faith walk as well. So for the next several weeks, we're going to talk about these 7 principles. And today I want to start off with the first principle. You can find these all in the book of Ephesians chapter 5, beginning at the 14th verse, which I think is pretty appropriate. 14 to 21, both are, both are divisible by 7. So I thought that was pretty interesting that these are the 7 principles. So verse 14 basically says, "Awake, O sleeper, and the light makes everything visible. That is why it is said, awake, O sleeper, rise up from the dead, and Christ will give you light." So the first principle is wake up. We live in a world where everybody's talking about be woke. We woke. Or I don't know if you remember the movie School Days. At the very end, when the character was screaming, "Wake up, wake up!" And so we live in this environment. Folks always talking about wake up or be woken. What does that really mean? Well, to those of us in the faith, I believe wake up really talks about what happens when we begin to recognize our environment. Let's just pretend that you sleep in a very physical manner. When you first wake up in the morning, you recognize nothing. You begin to put shape to your environment. When my alarm goes off, typically when my alarm goes off, what's happening is I'm dreaming about something, and I don't know if I'm near a fire and a fire alarm is going off, or someone's chasing me and the police alarm is going off, or someone's broken the house and the burglar alarm is going off. Whatever alarm this is, it wakes me up, and I begin to recognize while I'm asleep it's an alarm. But as I wake up, I realize it is not a fire alarm or a police alarm or any burglar alarm. It's my alarm clock to wake me up. So while I'm asleep, things still happen. The earth still moves, the wind blows, car horns honk, dogs bark, people snore. All kinds of things are happening while we're asleep. But because we're asleep, we do not put shape to those things. We don't even recognize them. It doesn't mean they're not there. It means we don't recognize them. Too many of us go through this life asleep that we do not recognize the environment in which we are in. When we wake up, we begin to recognize and put shape to that environment. Oh, that noise that I woke up to is an alarm clock, not a fire alarm. When we are asleep, the earth does not stop. Your brain does not stop working. You don't stop taking in things. That's why we have to be careful when we're sleeping. What music is on the radio, what TV shows are on TV, what are we allowing to get into our system while we're asleep? Because when we wake up, it helps to determine how we interpret the world around us. You don't believe me? Have you ever woke up someplace and wondered, how did I get here? And when you woke up in a panic because you weren't familiar with the environment, and it took you just a few minutes or maybe a few seconds to realize that, yeah, I am actually on a business trip in a hotel here where I'm supposed to be and not at home. Because when we wake up, we begin to put shape and definition to our environment. So spiritually, we can walk through life asleep, or we can begin to put shape and definition to what goes on around us. This is the first step to making any type of lifelong change, any type of significant contribution, is to wake up, to begin to put shape and definition to what's going on around us. There's nothing new under the sun. That's what the good book says. But the problem is, while there's nothing new under the sun, we do not always recognize those things. And so as we begin to recognize, we begin to wake up. This is why reading is so important, why observing is so important, because we become acclimated and introduced to new ideas and new thoughts, and we begin to wake up, put shape and definition to what's going on around us. If you're going to make a spiritual change or a spiritual investment or a spiritual impact to those around you, the circumstances, situations, and conditions around you, we must wake up and put definition. Call it what it is. Not how we imagine, not how we were dreaming when we were asleep, but how it truly is. We learn when we wake up. As we define things in truth, in terms of truth, not our imagination. We are not dream walking. We are actually walking. We are waking up, putting definition. So today, I encourage you, look around your environment and begin to see things, hear things, feel things, smell things, taste things as they are. Begin to recognize the environment around you. And when you do, you can truly say, I have woken up. Hey, this is Coach Ellis saying thank you for joining me. If you got questions or comments, leave them down below. Catch me on Facebook at Coach Ellis, or hit me up on email at coach@elliscrum.net. And until next week, when we talk about the next up, have a one tablet's Faith Waking Up Friday. God bless you.